Hello and welcome to a humble Highland home. Thank you so much for joining me here today as I continue working in the new kitchen garden ready for spring planting. These onion sets are the smallest of the onions from last year's harvest that I saved and overwintered, ready to replant this year. Now I could have planted these directly into the garden, but the garden bed is not ready yet. So I decided to give them a wee head start by planting them in modules until I'm ready to plant them outside. I've also planted lots of onion from seed, where the white onions did really well with their germination, but unfortunately the red onions just did not want to germinate this time. Could play a little bit of catch up by purchasing some red onion sets the next time I'm in town, but I generally use a lot more white onions than red onions, so we'll see. All of the onions and the sweet pea flowers are now being moved from the coziness of the greenhouse into the bigger polytunnel, as the next step for them will be to be planted out into their garden bed. I just love the smell first thing in the morning when I open up the polytunnel of the garlic and the leeks that have been growing in here over winter time. And now of course we've got our onions. Now you may have seen in previous videos that over the past while I've been working on the new outdoor growing space. It has taken a lot of work to get the garden to this stage, but I had the clear vision of what I wanted the garden to look like and how it was going to work for us. We've been provided with many lessons along the way, but we take the time to celebrate every step forward and every win, no matter how tiny. Adam's come to give me a hand to move the pea and bean frame into its position for this year. Adam made this frame, I think it was 3 years ago now, when it was originally along the row where the polytunnel is now. And last year I could only have one frame in a temporary bed as I was working on other areas of the growing space. So I had to use what we had and we made the best of it. But we still managed to grow lots of peas and some beans, but we also grew some celery at the bottom, and I threaded some sweet peas through to encourage the pollinators and to provide a beautiful display of highly scented flowers. So this year, because of all the work that we've done in this area, we now have the space for the 2 frames again. So I'm hoping for a bigger supply of peas and some more beans this year. And I will also add a lower growing crop to make the most of the growing space. But meanwhile, I may just plant a quick catch crop before the peas and beans get established. So for those that are unfamiliar with a quick catch crop, this is a plant that you would be able to plant and harvest before you need the space for the original plant that you've got in there. So for me, I might plant some radish and I'll be able to harvest these before the peas and beans need that space. We are still a few weeks away from our estimated last frost date, but it's still a good time to be planting some seeds to continue with the plan of being a step ahead for once the frosts are gone and the soil has warmed up. I've got all my frost tender plants continuing to grow in the house, so things like tomatoes, peppers and cucumber. But I've also planted seeds that belong to the brassica family, so things like some sprouts, some broccoli, cauliflower, kohlrabi, and along with some salads, so spinach, rocket and red and green salad ball. So I will be looking to bring them out into the greenhouse very soon, where I will continue to grow them on under fleece until they are hardened off, ready to go either in the polytunnel or out into the garden. I prefer to top dress my growing spaces in autumn time using homemade compost. However, these are new growing beds, so I'm just getting them established. I didn't have enough manure or homemade compost from last year to use on these garden beds, so I have used a mixture of farmyard manure and my usual organic peat-free compost that I normally use, and I've just added layers of this onto these beds. I keep the beds covered as much as I possibly can to preserve the soil, keep the weeds down, and to help to warm the ground up to give all our plants the best conditions that we can to help them all thrive and hopefully provide another bountiful harvest for us. It's just lovely working in the garden at this time of year, as we've got no good old Scottish midges, no ticks and no clegs, otherwise known as horseflies, so we make the most of these times. So as I finish up covering the last of the beds until I'm ready for them, my thoughts turn to some of the plants that I've got in pots that may need potting on. Springtime is a perfect time to do a health check on all the plants that you've got in pots. So I would be looking for the root growth underneath and any signs of damage or diseases or even pests. These are thornless blackberries, but the space where I aim to plant them is not ready yet, so I'm going to pot them on into bigger pots, and it's a perfect time of year when the plant is still in hibernation and it's just getting ready to start growing again. This will give the roots more room to grow, some more nutrients to feed off, and hopefully produce a bigger, more mature plant when I'm ready for it to go into its final growing space. So what are you doing to get your garden ready for spring? Let's chat in the comments below. But for now, thank you so much for joining me here today. Take care of yourself and others, and I'll see you in the next video.